Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the youth and educational programs here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we're extremely excited that all of you got the opportunity to tune in for our Heart of the Hall of Famer series featuring Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Dave Robertson. And before we go into the introduction of Mr. Robinson and closing opening remarks from him as well, one thing we always like to do is convey exactly why we do this program. And the real premise behind this, the reason why we started this about what's going on 3 years now, was really to convey what it takes to get into the Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic ability. I repeat this over and over again. We know our Hall of Famers are awesome, awesome, awesome examples of athleticism and skill and talent. But there's a lot of people that have athleticism across the country that don't go on the success that our Hall of Famers did on the field. And that's because it takes those character qualities. Not only the 6 core pillars that you guys are studying, the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship, but a whole host of other character qualities. And I got a little secret for you guys. These aren't just character qualities to being a great football player. These are character qualities to being a Hall of Famer in your everyday life, whether it's in your school buildings with your students, with your teachers, whether it is at home with your parents or siblings, whether it's with your youth groups, whether it's you're with the Boy Scouts or the YMCA or your local church or whatever it is that you might be. These are character qualities that are going to allow you to achieve excellence in everything that you do. So that's the real idea and premise. But I would like to recognize a few individuals that helped make this program possible. Without them, it would not have been possible. First and foremost, Faircrest Middle School there. Thank you very much for hosting this. I know Nick Stepanovich, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I don't know what the emphasis is, or the emphasis, as we say, on that is. But did I get that? I'll unmute you for a second. Did I get that right?
Yeah, close enough.
Stepanovich. How about that?
There you go.
All right. There we go. Stepanovich. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate all the arrangements you made there. He's the assistant principal there at Faircrest Middle School. Thank you very much. I don't think they're here today, but the Extreme Networks, Jerry Herzog, Mr. Stepanovich knows Jerry very well, so thank you for Mr. Herzog for making the arrangements too. We have to thank all the teachers for all the school districts. You made the arrangements, prepared your students, pulled them out of classes, just made the arrangements to make them available for today's broadcast. Thank you very much for doing that. And last but definitely not least, we need to thank the students, because as we always say, you guys are the stars of the show, and you're going to be the ones driving the program. We'll have Mr. Robinson with some opening remarks, but we would like to save the last 45 minutes just for Q&A. And I saw some of your questions, some great character questions that they have for Mr. Robinson, so I'm really excited to get to those. But before we do that, I would like each of the schools, I'm going to call upon your school, and if you would like to unmute your microphone, obviously Faircrest, you don't have to worry about that because I've got your microphone unmuted throughout the entire program since the speaker is there. But what I'd like to do is when I call upon you, feel free to unmute your microphone and give a shout out for your school district. If you got a chant or whatever you want to do, just give a little shout out. So we're going to start there at Fairmont Middle School, or Fairmont, I keep saying, Faircrest Middle School. Go ahead if you guys want to give a shout out.
There we go.
Come on, Faircrest.
Faircrest, give it up.
Hi.
All right, we tried.
Hey, yeah, they're very enthusiastic here. I don't think they like you. They like me, though.
There's probably good reason for that. So there's probably, but let's go to the reason why I kept calling you guys Fairmount, because there is another mount. There's Southmount. Southmount, if you want to go ahead and unmute and give a shout out.
Let's hear it. Let's go.
The folks in Crawfordsville, Indiana, are very pumped up here today, so we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Go ahead and mute there, Southmount. Let's go to Eagleville, Pennsylvania. Eagleville Elementary.
All right, we are the Eagles, so we're going to do, even though I apologize, Mr. Robinson, I know you're a Packer, we're going to do an Eagles chant. You guys ready? 1, 2, 3.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. I love the enthusiasm this morning. And last but definitely not least, let's go to Wisconsin. I think you might have a few fans there, Mr. Robinson, at Westfield Middle School in Westfield, Wisconsin.
Hi, my name is Haley Robertson. We're from Westfield, Wisconsin.
All right, thank you very much, Westfield. And I'll go ahead and mute you guys back up there. So thank you very much. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to get in the introduction of our speaker here, and that's Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Dave Robinson. Mr. Robinson joined the Green Bay Packers as the team's first-round pick out of Penn State in 1963, and Mr. Robinson can even share with you what that meant, what Vince Lombardi drafted an African-American in the first round was a big deal at that time. He could have waited third, fourth, fifth round to draft an African-American. So just a part of the core character qualities when you talk about a great man like Vince Lombardi. For the next 10 seasons in Green Bay, he was a big play performer from his linebacker spot as the Packers became one of the most dominant dynasties in NFL history. He established himself as among the finest linebackers of the game during a career that spanned 12 seasons, including 2 final years with the Washington Redskins in 1973 and 1974. In all, he intercepted 27 passes, which he returned for 449 yards and 1 touchdown. Mr. Robinson maintained a consistently high level of play, but competed for national notoriety with many great defensive stars, including numerous future Hall of Famers on the Packers roster. He was named All-NFL 3 straight years from 1967 through 1969 and voted to 3 Pro Bowls as Green Bay dominated the league. In addition, he was named second-team All-Pro in 1968 and 69 and was voted All-Western Conference 3 times from 1966 through 1968. At 6'3", 245 pounds, he possessed great strength but was also extremely agile. He started at left outside linebacker in 3 NFL championship victories and 2 Super Bowl wins. He contributed 3 tackles in Green Bay's 35-10 win over the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl I, and then had 2 tackles, 5 assisted tackles, 1 fumble recovery, and a pass defended in Super Bowl II as the Packers downed the Oakland Raiders 33-14. Mr. Robinson suffered a severe Achilles tendon injury in 1970 that limited him to just 4 games. He rebounded the following season and didn't miss a game for the Packers in 1971 and 1972 before moving on to the Redskins. He recorded 4 interceptions during his first season with the Washington Redskins. His lone interception return for a touchdown during his career came against the New York Giants on October 14, 1973, when he picked off a Norm Snead pass and ran it back 28 yards for a score in the fourth quarter to seal the Redskins' 21-3 victory. Robinson played in a total of 155 regular season games during his career and was voted to the NFL's All-Decade Team of the 1960s. Robinson, who was born in Mount Holly, New Jersey, was a football star and earned a civil engineering degree at Penn State. In the midst of his NFL career, Robinson got a job with Milwaukee-based Joseph Schlitz Brewing Company. His playing days ended after a 2-year stint with the Washington Redskins, and his work in Schlitz marketing department led to him moving to West Akron in the 1970s. In 1990, Robinson became the second former NFL player to join the Hall of Fame Board of Trustees. He holds the title of secretary. Robinson retired as vice president of Superior Beverage of Akron, the Mars division, in 2001. He served as a consultant for the company until 2006 and has co-authored 3 books about his former legendary coach, Mr. Vince Lombardi. So as you guys can see just from that intro, obviously his career was more than just being a football player. And in many regards, you could argue that maybe his off-the-field career outgained, I guess, to use a football term, outgained his on-the-field career. So, again, we're excited to give you guys the opportunity to be able to speak with Mr. Robinson. But before we do that, I'd like to show you guys a quick clip. You should see a VLC media player coming up here, and we'll go ahead and show some highlights of Mr. Robinson.
Dave Robinson was drafted by Green Bay in 1963 and quickly became an impact performer from his linebacker spot. As part of arguably the greatest dynasty in pro football history, Robinson helped Lombardi's Packers win 3 NFL championships and the first 2 Super Bowls. During his 12-year career, Robinson was selected to 3 Pro Bowls and was named to the All-Decade Team of the 1960s.
Okay, if you guys can all unmute your microphones for a second and join me in giving a warm round of applause to Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Dave Robinson. Thank you very much. And Mr. Robertson, we'll go ahead. If you want to go with your opening remarks, go ahead.
First of all, I want to apologize to everybody about my missing tooth. I could have put it in, but it makes you look tough, they told me, so I left it out. No, actually what happened, I had a partial, I broke it, and it won't be ready till sometime later this week. So it's been there since 1960. I played without a face mask or a mouthpiece. So I have to tell you, if you want to play football, wear a mouthpiece or a face mask or something. Number one, I'm glad to see the guys in Westfield. I've been to Westfield, Wisconsin. I've been in Pennsylvania and went to Penn State. And so it's almost like I'm living here in Ohio, so it's almost like a hometown groupie for me. Football is more than just a sport. It's a way of life. It's a good microcosm of how things work. Number one, you have to interact with your teammates. That's like interact with your neighbors, your friends, the people around you. And you got to have the interaction. When you leave school and you get out the world, and the world's going to be like a big football game or team. And you're going to have to interact with a lot of people. A man is a social animal. Everybody has their specialty. There's a plumber, electrician, and everything else. You have got to be in football, a lineman, a back, a linebacker, et cetera, et cetera. And in life, you have parents who tell you what to do, and you should listen to them. In football, you have your coaches who try to guide you along the way. In life, you have laws you have to obey. In football, you have the rules that you have to stick to, and you have to obey the rules. The difference being that if you break one of the rules in football, let's say holding, that's a 10-yard penalty. You can't negotiate it down. It's finite. It's 10 yards, it's 10 yards. In life, with some of our laws, which I don't necessarily agree with, if you get arrested for one thing, you negotiate a plea bargain, something different, and not serve the penalty. Football is just a little more strict than that. And you have a police force in real life. Police force is going to correct you and check out, make sure you stay within the laws. In football, you have the officials who have the little flag thrown up, and they keep you in line. Make sure you follow the rules, and that's how it is. Now, one thing about football was a big attraction for me was I was a poor kid. My father died my freshman year. My mother couldn't afford to send me to school. I wanted to go to college to get a degree so I could get a job. And actually, I was dating a girl at that time, and I wanted to get married. So I wanted a job so I make some money. But I went to football for one reason. I played football for one reason, just to pay for education. Never thought about playing pro ball. Never at all. And at least not the Hall of Fame. In my junior year, I realized a guy I played against the year before as a sophomore, Mike Dicker, was Rookie of the Year. And then I started laying in bed one day thinking, I said, well, right, Mike Dicker is Rookie of the Year, and I had a pretty good game against him. Maybe I can play this game of professional football. Maybe this may be a way to get some quick money so I can get married right away. So that's why I went into pro ball. Now, somebody says, did you ever think about going into the Hall of Fame? No, I did not, because the Hall of Fame wasn't started until 1963, which was my rookie year. So I couldn't think about the Hall of Fame because there was no Hall of Fame. And so it's kind of interesting. But I didn't play to be a Hall of Famer. I played for the self-gratification of doing my best. My father had always taught me that no matter what you do, whether you're a ditch digger, a plumber, an electrician, or a football player, be the best you can be. You have God-given abilities, and you got to take them to the highest heights you can. Everybody in this room and on TV, you all have certain qualities. It's up to you to find out what you're best at, nourish them, and make them grow. And everybody in this room I know that's looking at the video will not be football players. They may not be swimmers or professional athletes at all, but you can be winners in life. And that's the whole idea. You got to be a winner in life. And you're only going to do that if you take the good things you have and nurture them. And everybody's got some faults. I had some myself. I could talk to all for a long time about them, but I suppressed them. I got them out of my life because they weren't helping me go where I wanted to go. And I stuck to the things that were the good side of my life. I had friends who had remained friends at a distance, but they were going one way and I was going another way. And I knew better than to hang with them and let myself go down the tube, so to speak. Football, to me, was a life-changing thing. I did it. I went to college to play football only to get a job, and then I got absorbed by it. I met great people. I got a great deal of satisfaction from it. It's something interesting about football. Let's go on real quick on the sideline, on the tangent. When you can look at a guy across the line for you, and he's approximately your size, and he's approximately, he may be stronger than you, he may be faster than you, and he may be more smart than you. You never can tell what it is. But you go deep down inside yourself to find a little something that allows you to escape the block, make the tackle, and to excel. That is the biggest thrill in life. The same thing, when you walk outside the doors of this institution, you get in the world, you're around all sorts of people who in some way feel or are maybe superior positions than you are. But you have something in here that's going to make you outperform them, and become the best in your field. Vince Lombardi once told us, the size of a person does not determine whether or not you're going to play football. The size of the person determines whether you're going to be a tackle or a running back. The size of your heart, what you're willing to give to the game, determines if you're going to be a football player. It's the same thing no matter what your chosen field endeavor is. The size of your willingness to sacrifice, your willingness to do things, even though you don't get full credit for it. The credit may go to others, but you just still do it because it's right. That's what's going to make you a success in life. Jared, is that enough? Oh, shit. I think Jerry went to sleep.
Sorry, Dave. I'm looking down. I take notes throughout the program to the students, because it's always a learning experience whenever I do these. Because this learning doesn't stop when you get outside of the classroom. I'm 36 years old, and learning definitely does not stop. I have a lot to learn, so I'm always seeking advice or looking for advice from people that know more than I do, like Mr. Robertson or my parents, on how to be a good husband to my wife or how to be a good father to my kids. Whatever it might be. I mean, we're always constantly learning. So, and I love the quote that obviously Mr. Lombardi has, Coach Lombardi has a number of quotes that I'm sure might come up throughout the course of the program, at least the ones that we're allowed to say on in front of a bunch of students. But nonetheless, we're excited to get to the Q&A portion here. So if you see me looking down or something, Mr. Robinson, it's not because it's either A, I'm taking notes, or B, I keep my mobile phone here, that if any of the schools want to communicate to me, they can text me and communicate that way. So don't look at it. I didn't fall asleep. Not yet, at least.
I know. Jerry, don't take me so sensitive. I'm just joking. You got to be light. You got to be like, it's kind of interesting talking to a guy like yourself, and then you talk about age. This Super Bowl I ring I'm wearing, it's 48 years old this year, and it's older than you. It's older than a lot of the students here, and all the students here, but older than a lot of the students' parents here. And so it transcends. Football and the Super Bowl transcends a lot of lifetimes. A lot of people, all of the young ladies and gentlemen in this room, the whole lifetime there's been a Super Bowl. Before when I was playing, there wasn't a Super Bowl when I started, and that's why I played in the very first one. I was 25 years old then. I've been in the league 3 years. What Jerry said earlier, and this is something I had to overcome. It was not common to draft black ball players in the first round back in the early 60s. There's a thinking in the league that black ball players could not play certain positions, could not play football, didn't have the heart to take the beating. And Vince Lombardi changed that when in 61 he drafted Herb Allen in the first round. And then in 63 he drafted me in the first round. I was the second African-American drafted in the first round by the Green Bay Packers. And even at that, when I went to All-Star camp to play, they tried me at defensive end and then at tight end and then settled linebacker. And when I went to camp, Vince told me, he said, the reason why they put me around was not that they didn't think I'd be a good linebacker, but there were no black linebackers in the National Football League. So I was the first one to play in the league. And he said he didn't want a distraction for all the guys who wrote all these articles and everything else about Dave Robertson breaks the color barrier at linebacker. And, he said, anybody comes to you, address them to me. And I did. And I never heard a word. He kept it quiet. We didn't have any distractions. But it was interesting, man. Very, very interesting, man. Some of the things he did are now the pillars of the National Football League. When he won it in 1961, he gave all the wives of the mothers or girlfriends of the single guys a mink stole. He said, because he thought the wives are so important to the team. When he won again in 62, he gave all the wives, the mothers, a a color TV. Then I came in '63, as Jerry told you, and we lost to the Bears that year. And but my wife saw all these big stoles and color TVs and everything. '64, we lost again to the Cleveland Browns. But I brought my wife a mink stole and a color TV. But that's how. And then in '65 we won. Oh, in '66. But when we won in '65, the commissioner went to Vince Lombardi and said, "Vince, I don't want you to give the wise gifts because the other owners are complaining that they can't give gifts to the wise." And what Vince said to the commissioner said, "Look, you run the NFL, and I'll run the Green Bay Packers. The wise are very, very important to us, and we're going to take care of the wise." And these guys said, "Okay, do it, but don't have a big press conference." I tell you this story for two reasons. Number one is every team that wins the Super Bowl today gives a gift to the wise. Everybody, because now how important the wise are. When I was in business, in order to be successful, every year we put out we took a cruise, and we had an objective. Maybe there was a 10% increase in sales that year. We sent a letter, not to the employee, but to the spouse, saying, if we hit this number, we're all going to cruise this year in the Western Caribbean. Then we kept them addressed. We said, at the present time, we're up 15%. We got to maintain this trend. And that every spouse knew where we were as far as during that trip to go to the Caribbean. And it's surprising if a salesman or even somebody, a merchandiser, slipped on his job a little bit, his or her spouse told them, "You better get on the ball. I want to take that trip." That's the whole idea. I learned that from Vince Lombardi, and it worked very well. It worked very, very well for me in my business. I could tell you some of the numbers, but I'm not going to. Some of my employees may hear them. But no. But if you ever get in the business, remember that. If you ever get a chance, take care of the spouse. I'll say real quickly, and you folks here are much too young to understand this spousal thing. But a spouse is so important to your business. Your best employees are the ones that come to work early. Your best employees are the ones that go home late. Your best employees are the ones that come in on the weekend. And you guys probably know, but your own parents doing this thing, mothers or fathers. The best employee, when he comes in early or she comes in early, goes home late or comes in on the weekend, they're leaving the spouse at home. They're leaving the family. And therefore, the best employees' family may hate the company more than anybody else because it takes so much of their time away from the children and the family activities. You've got to do something to bring the family into the fold. That's just a lesson in life. Remember that. If you get anything you do, bring the family into the fold somehow. And we did it with a cruise. But there's lots of ways you do it, something else. I'm sorry, Jay, I ran off the mouth a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay. And, you notice I said I wasn't asleep yet, so I didn't take it too personally. So, and Mr. Stepanovich, just so you know, I've seen your bar go down a little bit. We were getting a little bit of latency and some audio coming through, just sporadically, but nonetheless still happening. So if there's anyone that's logging on or streaming video or something, maybe we can try to send out an email or something like that. But everything, 99% of that still came through great. So, but we're going to start the Q&A session. And again, I want to just remind the students to number one, or the teachers that are there, is after you ask your question, please remember to mute your microphone immediately following so we can eliminate any background noise during that. We would ask you to go close to that microphone, wherever your microphone is, and talk clearly and loudly to that microphone so that we can hear that. As for the students there at Faircrest, if you want to come up to the microphone closer, or even come next to Dave and come on the camera, whatever it is you want to do there, but just make sure that we get that clearly as well there. And again,
I'll repeat any questions here for you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And just a reminder, we're talking about there have been 20,000 players that have played in the NFL since it started here in Canton, Ohio in 1920. There are only 280 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And out of the 280, it's only 250 or so that are actually players. So when you're talking about Dave Robertson, you are talking about one of the elite players of all time. Name a great linebacker in the NFL today, and they aspire to be in his shoes, to be a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I'd imagine like the case with most of our guys, that if they knew a little bit about his off the field as well, they'd probably aspire to be in his shoes there as well. So with that being said, we're going to go to Faircrest. Do you want to go ahead with the first question? And Mr. Robertson will repeat that so we can hear it. Go ahead. Oh. Dave, I think there we go. Your video's cutting out here.
My name is DeAndre Donning.
Okay. Jerry,
Yep, we're back.
all right. The question was, what were my grades like in high school, and were my parents strict on me? And the answer is, my grades were pretty good, and my parents were very strict. My mother only went to 6th grade. My mother only went to 8th grade, and my father to 6th grade. And they were born in 1903 and 1902, and they were very educated. They wanted to educate their children, and they wanted us to be as strong. And I had 7 brothers and sisters, and no one in my household was allowed to bring home C's. You could bring them home, but you got chastised. A's and maybe B's were accepted. So I worked hard, and you had to. So my family was very strict, and I remember one time when I was in my senior year when a lot of people clowned around, and a girl from my high school grabbed my report card, and I never showed my report card to anybody. Wasn't their business. It was mine and my parents' business. And she went out, and they all thought I had maybe D's or E's or something, and I had all A's and 1 B, and I went through the school like, Dave Robertson got all these grades. But in my household, that was expected. You expected to have A's and B's, and I took college preparatory courses because my mother and father wanted me to go to college. The big goal of my oldest brother and sisters was my dad wanted them to graduate from high school because he never did. The last 3 of us, my sister, my older brother, he wanted the 3 of us to go to college, and we all did and graduated. My brother got his master's, was a teacher and a minister. But anyway, it's just the way of life. It starts at home. Your parents got to motivate you and then help you, and then that's it. Oh, one last thing. One reason why I said my parents have to help you. The number 1 rule in my household was you did your homework first, and the only thing could interrupt that was dinner. And after dinner, you did it, and then you had a fixed time to go to bed. That's simple. And I always did mine after dinner because I played sports, so I got home late.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's go to Southmount, Indiana. And I'm going to guess Southmount, were you guys getting a little lag with Mr. Robinson? If not, it might be my network.
Yeah, we're getting just a little bit. It's
Okay.
not terrible, but it's yeah, a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, one of the questions the students have here for you is, what exactly gave you the drive to achieve all your goals throughout your life?
What was that, Jerry? What gave me what?
What gave you the drive?
Oh, the drive? Well, the big thing was I never wanted to fail in football or in life or in education or anything else. My parents gave me the drive, really. I think it was stimulating from that. And also, I came from New Jersey, and all the students in New Jersey were not great students, and some were all not great children. And I wanted to separate myself from the crowd. I had enough self-esteem and pride in my family name. I never want anybody to say anything bad about the Robertsons, and the word they didn't want to say anything bad about Dave Robertson. So I had a lot of pride, and it's the internal pride that makes you work hard. After my father died my freshman year, my mother was busy, and the last bit of advice my father gave me was, he said, I wish you had played more sports so your mother knows where you are after school. And I ended up playing 4 sports for 3 years, attained 12 varsity letters in basketball, baseball, track, and football. I kept in that order for one reason. I was all state in basketball and baseball, and I was only 2nd team in football. So that's how much I think about all state teams. But anyhow, but that was the whole thing, and that was my driving force to keep the grades up, and to keep my grades up so I could go to school, and I had to make sure my mother, I stayed out of trouble, and like I said, I I used to hang around some boys that were troublesome. And when I started playing football, we parted ways. They went their way and I went mine. So that's where my inspiration came from. Just wanting to do good.
And I think that's one of the reoccurring themes we have with this is that, our Hall of Famers, we just had Floyd Little in 2 weeks ago for a program here. And, to achieve excellence, you got to surround yourselves with excellent people that are going to help you strive to achieve your best. It's so many cases we think of peer pressure as a negative thing, but peer pressure can also be a very positive thing if you're surrounding yourselves with those students that might be smarter than you or might be more athletic than you or whatever it might be to continue that drive. So let's go to Eagleville, PA.
Yeah, can I ask one thing, that thing?
Yeah, sure.
You go around and you see people who are doing something you think is wrong. You don't do it just because they're doing it. You should try to correct them and tell them that you think is right. And I mean, I don't care. I was always the type person that if I was in a room with 6 people and 5 people want to jump off the bridge, and I say that's crazy, and I try to talk the 5 of them off of jumping off the bridge. You gotta have strong. And if you're weak, you don't really believe in yourself, then you'll go along the crowd and jump off the bridge. Don't be a follower. Be a leader. Say to yourself, I'm the one that's leading this parade. I'm the one that decides whether or not we jump off the bridge, and I'm not jumping. Then nobody jumps off the bridge, and then you've done your job. But just to be merely enough to say, well, I don't want to say anything because 4 guys want to jump and jump the bridge. It's the wrong way to go. Believe in yourself. Do what you think is right.
Yeah, and Nick,
You got it?
we're getting a lot of thank you very much. We're getting a lot of choppiness there, Nick. Just so you know, with the audio and the video. Let's go to Eagleville. I know you guys had a question.
Out of the 6 pillars, is there one that you feel Vince Lombardi talked about the most?
Oh, I don't know that, but talk about Vince talked about everything, and he even tied into religion. Vince was a very religious person. He was a devout Catholic. He went to mass every day, and it was just the way of life. Vince talked about all the 6 things, and I can't think of one. I can't pick one and say it's stronger than the other or was number 1 on Vince's list. They're all together, but the thing is, he talked about them all incessantly. He didn't just say it once and forget it. He kept repeating it and repeating them and repeating them. And different days, we saw somebody slip in one area. That was the discussion the next day. He brought us all back into the fold.
So which one, Dave, out of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, or citizenship, which one do you think I know everything. Is there one in particular that you think might have summarized Mr. Lombardi more than others?
It's hard to say because trustworthy, respect, he was all those things. And I'm telling you, we all had great deal of respect for each other and the coaches and the community. And he did things like he told us all the time, when you look in the mirror and you see you're wearing that green and gold, then you're more than just yourself. You're a Green Bay Packer. And we had a great deal of respect and honor and admiration and everything else for the Green Bay Packers. Those 6 things can't be separated. If I sit here and try to say one of the 6 is greater than the other, you may walk out and say, all I got to do is be trustworthy. They're together. Together they make a unit. Together they make you. Together they make you better. You got to do all 6. You can't just do 1 or 2. So there really is not one that's more important than the other. They're equally important. And that's, I may not say it the way you understand, but that's the way I understood it. And it's hard for me to try and say one is more valuable than the other. They're all great qualities.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Robertson. Let's go to Westfield, Wisconsin. I know they've been chomping at the bit to talk to you.
Uh-oh. Did you lose Westfield?
No, I think they're still there. Oh, I think you.
What pillar of character do you look for in a teammate?
What President Packer?
What pillar?
Oh,
in a teammate do you look for?
Oh, what pillar? What characteristic?
Yeah, trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, well, the big thing was that it's an old adage: the left hand washes the right. Your teammate is like your right hand, you're the left hand. You got to work together. The teammate is the one between the two of you. You've got to do this thing together. You put total trust in him and everything else. You understand that when the teammate, the guy next to you, I play next to some nice guys, great guys. I never doubted them, and I never wanted to let them down. I never wanted to do something that would make them think that I was getting weak, or I couldn't be trusted, or I didn't have the stamina. These guys were right; they were next to you, and the qualities are all there. All my teammates have, and the number one thing, of course, was that we worked together. In the Hall of Fame right now, my defensive end, Willie Davis, is there. My cornerback, Herb Howdy's there. The guy to my inside, Ray Nitschke's there. And when they went strong to their left, our weak side safety, Willie Wood's in the Hall of Fame. So there was times when you set your offense up to go to your left, strong left. We had 5 future Hall of Famers all looking at you on the left side of our defensive line. And the reason what made it so strong was they all had those characteristics. They all were tied together, and they were one. And I'm not like I was a linebacker, but I was part of Lynn Barty's greatest left side and the greatest left side ever in the history of the National Football League.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Westfield. Another great question. Let's go back to the students there at Canton South. At Faircrest.
Is this?
Jared? Second. Oh, Jared.
Hey, Jared.
Did your personality change?
What's his name?
Did your personality change?
The question was, did my personality change on and off the field? Well, I'll tell you what. I try to be extremely aggressive on the field, and I try to be very docile off the field. That everybody used to tell my wife to tell her to say, well, how do you live with a guy that's so aggressive? Because I was aggressive on the field. And she said, well, he's just a big pussycat at home. And I told her, I said, the big thing is, any inside aggression I had, I took out on the field. I mean, I hit people all day long. When I went home, I didn't want to hit anybody. I was a very docile person, and you have to be, because you have to be able to channel and train your aggressiveness and make it work for you. Do something constructive with your aggression. I mean, just because I'm being aggressive is not the word. And you know, if I had to be step up with my children for disciplinary reasons, I thought I could do it. I did not beat on them or anything, but I let them know with a stern voice who was boss and what the rules were around our house, as Vince Lombardi did to us. And but I was aggressive on the field. Let me give you one thing real quick. My best friend that I played against was John Mackey. He was a tight end. He and I were real good friends. We played against each other in college 4 years. He went to Syracuse. I went to Penn State. After the season was over, we both being African-American and tight ends, we roomed together at a number of all-star games. He and I were in Hawaii on New Year's Eve, 1963. We flipped the coin to see who was going to call the girlfriend first to say Happy New Year's. Those 2 girls and the 2 of us got married. The 4 of us were together. He was in Baltimore, and I lived in New Jersey at that time. During the off season, we went to dinner together, we went to shows together. We were just real close. I hit John Mackey harder than anybody else. I tried to tear his head off, and he me. The problem is, I did not want John Mackey to go back to his wife and say, Sylvia, we played Green Bay today, and Dave's getting soft. On the football field, not in life. On the football field, the aggression is challenged. And he and I both felt that we had to be the best we could and gain respect to the other guy for how hard we hit. That's the way it is. Football takes out all your aggressions. I hit John Mackey hard. He hit me hard. I'd come home and say, man, that Mack's still tough. And he went out, I hope he said, I don't know what he said to his wife, I hope he said the same thing, because we had a really long career at both. And John Mackey, by the way, is also in the Hall of Fame.
Most definitely. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. It's a great question there, Faircrest. Let's go to Indiana, Crawfordsville.
Okay.
One of the questions is what advice would you give to someone that is unsure about their future, what they're going to do with their future?
Okay, number one, what you do is going to be is going to be somewhat molded by what the qualities you have in life. I always wanted to be a professional baseball player, and with names like Robertson and being born in the 40s, and Jackie Robinson integrating baseball in 48, living no more than 100 miles from New York City, and I was a big Dodger fan, and I thought I should be a baseball player. But I was also, by the way, I had a tryout with a couple of professional baseball teams. They wanted me to sign and go to the AAA division right away, but I did not. They would not let me go to college. They wanted me to come and start playing baseball and not go to college. And my father had said he wanted me to get a college education. You got to set your priorities straight. My priority was to go to college rather than just big money or play baseball. I was offered a lot of money, a lot more money than I got in football to go to play baseball. But they did not. They were going to deny me my education. And my parents thought that was important. You got to keep your mind on the even keel. You got to know what you want in life, and you got to go for it and do it. And I love basketball, but I'm only 6'3", so I knew I wasn't going to go that far in basketball at 6'3", and I loved baseball, but they didn't want me to go to college, and my track was just so-so. But football and I were a natural fit. Having said that, I then worked at improving my skills, being the best football player I could be. Remember earlier we were talking about being the best plumber, the best electrician, the best ditch digger. I decided to be the best football player I could be. Then when Vince Lombardi made me a linebacker, I wanted to be the best linebacker in the National Football League. And that was my goal. You got to set your goals to be the best. What are you going to do? And you're going to do what your talents lead you to. There's certain people, guys who can play baseball. I'm trying to tell you, some of them can't play football, et cetera, et cetera. Guys who can be electricians cannot be a plumber. They can't fix a faucet. Whatever you do, make sure you're the best at it. Be the best at what you do.
And that's why students too. It's so important. Your teachers and your coaches that are around you. Those that are older, more mature, that are wiser than you are. Is sometimes they recognize that talent before you even see that talent. I know Kellen Winslow, we just did a program with 2 weeks ago. You might know his son, Kellen Winslow Jr. He's with the Jet. Who's he with right now? I forget who he's with right now. But anyhow, he wasn't even playing football in high school. He didn't play till like his junior, senior year when one of the coaches recognized just seeing him, his athleticism and the type of athleticism he had. So, I mean, it's again, surrounding yourselves with those types of people that are going to help you achieve your goal, but also be able to see things in you that maybe you don't see, and then allowing them. That's the other thing. We need to seek that advice. It's great to surround yourselves with people, but if you're not actually willing to seek the advice that they have, I think that's as important as well. Let's go to Eagleville, Pennsylvania.
All right, Cassidy.
We think your favorite game was Super Bowl I. Are we correct? Can you tell us something about that game that not many people know?
My favorite game is football, you said?
She said, was your favorite football game? They're assuming your favorite football game was Super Bowl I. Is that correct?
Oh.
And if so, can you tell us something that maybe the general public doesn't know about Super Bowl I?
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of things on Super Bowl I. I don't know if that was my favorite game or not, because it was kind of anticlimactical. We never thought we wouldn't lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. The only problem we had was we had to win by 3 touchdowns, and that was the thing, and we did, of course. I can go into that a little later, but and there's something that might be something that no one else knows. Vince Lombardi, this thing about being the best, is very proud of the National Football League. He said that we couldn't win Super Bowl I by a close score, like 10-7 or 14-10 or 17-13 or something like that. He said we had to win by 3 touchdowns to prove the superiority of the National Football League. And they told us, he said something, he says, I don't think you guys can beat even the Little Sisters of the Poor by 3 touchdowns. And my roommate told me, said, who are the Little Sisters of the Poor? Probably, you non-Catholics don't know either, but anyway. I told him, I said, well, I don't know who they are, but they must have a heck of a running attack. And that's the way it was. That's the thing about Super Bowl I. We felt we could win. I think one of my most important games to me was the game I talked about earlier where I made the stop against Diamond Maryland. Even more important, we were in 1965 to start off a championship. We were getting ready to play a game, and they were on our 6-yard line, getting ready to go in for a score and make the game close. And they tried to lob the ball over my head. I intercepted the ball and ran it back. The longest interception in Baltimore Colt history, 87 yards. The downside was I was 97 yards to the goal line, so they made it to the 10. We scored the next play. But what made that play so important to me was my brothers, my mother, my sister, my high school teacher, my elementary school teacher, all in the stands. I wanted to show up for them. The most important thing to me was not in winning or losing the game, but was having the people who I felt closest to that see me play and play up to my ability. See that I was not the same stumbling, bumbling kid they saw in high school. I was now a professional. Now I knew my trade then, and I could do it and do it very, very well. So that was the thing. My pride came not from winning the game, as you might think, but from showing off to my relatives. My second greatest game, going off on a tangent, when we played the New York Giants in New York. There, my one brother who didn't travel very much, he was at that game. So I had all four of my brothers there, my sister, my mother, and I had 2 interceptions, a sack on Fran Tarkenton, and a partially blocked punt, and I got Defensive Player of the Week. And again, the pride was not in winning the game. It was a big game for us. I was proud of the fact that I had done well in front of my family. Family, to me, was always first. The family I was raised with, and then the family that I spurned. My wife and children. I never wanted to embarrass them. I never wanted to embarrass my family, and I wanted to prove them over and over again that I was the best that could be in my chosen profession.
Thank you very much, Eagleville. And I know, Eagleville, you guys might have to leave a couple minutes early, so thank you very much for tuning in. Let's go to Westfield, Wisconsin. Go ahead.
What was it like to play under Vince Lombardi, and how did he bring out the best in each player?
What was it like to play for Vince Lombardi? It was a unique experience. And how he brought the best was he actually challenged you to be the best. He wanted you to be the best. He said over and over and over again that no one can be perfect. But we, the Green Bay Packers, and here in this room or anywhere else, you got to strive for perfection. You got to try to be perfect. And you won't get there because nobody can be perfect. Only perfect person I know, they crucified. But on your way to perfection, on your way to becoming perfect, you got to pass excellence. And he said, I expect every man in here to be excellent. May not be perfect, but you got to be above average, way above average. And that's the thing. I know I wasn't a perfect father. I know I wasn't a perfect teacher. I know I wasn't a perfect football player. But I think I excelled at all those things because I was trying to be the best. I was trying to be perfect. And that's one of Vince's things he did. He was a phenomenal person who had a great insight in life. And for one thing, he inspired me in many, many ways.
And I love that quote, students. You guys should write that down. On your way to perfect, you can pass excellence. You'll pass excellence. So I mean, that's a word. That's a motto that we should probably. I'm gonna probably put it on my screensaver. Next time you're in, Dave, I'll show you.
Okay.
But no, thank you very much, Westfield. I think we got about 10 minutes left. It looks like maybe 8 minutes. We should be able to go from one more question from Canton South, Southmont, and I think it's going to be appropriate to end at Westfield with the last question since with the Wisconsin connection. So go ahead, Faircrest.
How did responsibility have an impact on your career, and why?
How does responsibility have an impact on responsibility for what? You mean like responsibility?
Anything.
Oh, anything?
Your,
yeah.
Athletic life.
Family life. Responsibility is a big word, and it intertwines itself in all phases of your life. You just said schoolwork, but I know I was responsible for my schoolwork, and I also know I was responsible for doing it well. and raised the family. I know I was responsible to my family, and I wanted to make a good example to them and rear them the way they should be reared. I always felt responsible. I always felt that what I did, I did. I never, somebody says, and the long story, if I point my finger at you, then 3 fingers point back at me. I'm the one. I have got to be the one. If anything I think you wrong, somebody says, well, who was it that caused the commotion? If I point at you, 3 fingers are pointing at me. I was part of it also because I didn't stop it, nip it in the bud. There's a great deal of responsibility all the time, and you're going to face it day in and day out. And you got to address it, and you got to have your guidelines. You got to have your guidelines. We're giving them the guidelines to you. You got to weigh what you do against what we said, and then say, am I going to be responsible for this or I'm not? And responsibility is just the responsibility is just the ultimate thing you have. I go on. It's kind of a hard question to answer, but I'll tell you, it's something you just feel inside. I know in here when I'm being responsible. I know in my heart that I'm doing the right thing, and I know what's irresponsible, and I know what's wrong, and I don't do those things. And it becomes a way of life. And like I say, you just got to be responsible at all times to your teachers, to your friends, to your associates, to everybody. Everybody you meet, even if you meet a stranger in the street, there's some responsibility there you got to give them. Okay?
Great question there, Faircrest.
Let's
go to Southmont.
The question was, what's the difference between a successful person and an unsuccessful person, in your opinion?
What's the difference between a successful person and an unsuccessful person? Number one is dedication, discipline, and the stick-to-itiveness. You got to be disciplined enough to stick to your goals, and if you're going to be successful in life if you set goals and try the best to obtain them and do everything you can to obtain them. This is something I got. I keep going back to Vince Lombardi, but that was the big thing. If you look at a football game, to be successful in a football game, you got things you got to do. Each and every one's got to do it. And then collectively, you got to do it. I remember one time Vince told us that there were people in the league who was bigger, stronger, faster, could jump higher, but there's a little certain something that made you a Green Bay Packer. And as that, you had to take it and nurture it and become a Packer. And then to be successful, we, the Packers, not Dave Robertson, but to be successful, we, the Packers, had to win. The same thing. If you want to be successful, you got to forget about the I, and bring everybody else into it. At work, my job was to make the company successful. And here, you're on a team, you make the team successful. And if nothing else, you leave here and you go into those individual homes and families, you want to do your best to make your family successful. These are the traits you have to do. You got to band together. And the thing about the guys who aren't successful, I think what the big thing to do is they go for their own. It's the I. I am okay. I'm not worried about whether John or Joe mess up. I didn't mess up. No. The successful people band together and make everybody successful one time. You're a unit. The good Lord put us here, and for some reason he gave us all different talents. We are what you call social beings. Social means that everybody's got their own specialty. And when you put them all together, all the different specialties you have in society, and you take away one part of it, then the whole society collapses. To be successful, your society that you live in, be it a classroom, or be it the outside world, or be it a team, the society's got to be successful. Then you are. I mean, it's kind of a weird situation. But suppose all of a sudden there are no electricians in the world. You'd be in the dark. It's that simple. And so so a successful electrician lights the way for all of us. You got to think of don't think about the I so much. Think about the we, and get everybody together. And that goes a long ways from football team to a classroom.
Thank you very much. And I see Eagleville still there. If you guys want to ask another question, go ahead.
Oh, that'd be great.
If you have children or grandchildren, what qualities do you try to teach them?
You bring it up, Jerry. What I didn't hear that. Jerry?
with your go ahead and repeat that. Make sure I understand the question correctly.
Here, come close, come close.
If you have children or grandchildren, what quality or qualities do you try to teach them?
Oh, so I have children. I have grandchildren. So the big thing is I like them to understand the same thing we're talking about here today, the 6 principles. And I like my children and grandchildren to accept responsibility for what they do. I like my children and grandchildren to try and make themselves do the best they can. I mean, if I was a son who played high school and college football, he did not play professional football. That was not in him, not in his DNA or his makeup. He tried his best to be the best high school and college football player he could. No matter what he tried, I try to instill in all my children and my grandchildren, when he decides to do something, try to be the best. Try to do it correctly. Try to do it legally and try to do it within the rules and be the best you can be. And that's it. This is a group of children now who are growing up doing homogenized milk stage. But ask your parents. When I was a kid, milk was not homogenized. And when you shake the milk up, the cream always came to the top. That's what I always say. No matter how things get mixed up in your life, the cream will always rise to the top. Be the cream in the milk. Don't be homogenized down to the punch. Try your best to be the best you can be. And then that's it. And I tell them all, always look at it this way. If you're in competition with somebody, it may not be true, but assume that the guy you're in competition with has an end or is related to the guy making the decision. So therefore, don't try to be as good as that person. Try to be better. And that's, if you do that all the time, you're going to be a success. Always, if you're in competition, don't just say, I'm as good as Joe. I don't know why I didn't get the job or why I didn't get the position. You have to be clearly head and shoulders above Joe. And that's how I try to be. And it works in football.
And that's a great question from that student. I mean, that's a very insightful question. And as a father of a 3 and a 5-year-old, I hope I'm instilling the proper values and things like that, so they have a framework for life. I mean, to go into all areas of life. So let's go to the last program. I see we got about 2 minutes left, and we'll go to the last question from Westfield and ask Mr. Robinson if he has any closing remarks. Let's go to Westfield, Wisconsin. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Noah, and my question is, do you think the 6 pillars of characteristics are involved in football, and why?
Do
you think the 6 pillars of character are involved in football, and why?
Well, yes, I do. They're in football, and the reason why I say they are because those 6 pillars are in life, and football is just a microcosm of life. Football is not. You can't say here's life, here's society, and here's football separate. They're all together, all intertwined. Those 6 pillars are going to last you not just during the football season. They're going to last you in life. They're trying to set you up. You may not believe it right now, but almost everything you do in school, elementary school, high school, it's getting you ready for life. Not getting you ready to. I mean, you don't hear the do one thing. It's just get ready for life. Those 6 pillars transcend anything you're going to do. You keep those in mind. Follow those ways, those 6 ways. Do those 6 things, and you're going to be successful. Now, in football, I feel it's mandatory. You got to have those qualities, and you're going to be a good football player. And like I said, football player is just a microcosm of life. And I hope I answered your question correctly, but don't lose track of the 6 things we're trying to teach you here today. And when every time, keep them someplace close to you, written down. And when you start wondering what to do and you have some questions, just read over them and say, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I being this? Am I being that? And if you answer yes, 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 your life's going to be a lot better off.
Thank you very much. A great question to end the program. Mr. Robinson, if you will, if there's any last remarks, maybe something you didn't share or maybe something you'd like to reiterate for these students just to close out the program?
One thing I didn't share is the fact the next time you bring somebody on, don't have a Drew Brees jersey in the background. I tell you, the Drew Brees and the old timers do not get along. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. We do have.
You're gonna put somebody else back there, and this is what I'm trying to tell you. when you do anything at all, when you do anything at all in life, you got to think of how you're going to present, how you're going to be projected to the person you're trying to influence. Now, I'm not trying to knock Jerry, but see, let me tell you real quick. Drew Brees made a statement during the last CBA that he did not want to fund back money to the old timers because they just spurned and wasted with bad investments, et cetera, et cetera. And I came in the league, first round draft pick, only made $15,000. When I came in the league, every team in the league, when I came in the league, that I can think of, played in the baseball field. The Bears played in Wrigley Field. The Detroit Lions played at Tiger Stadium. We played in Milwaukee County Stadium. There weren't any great football fields. We built the league. We made the money. We built those stadiums. We're the ones that made that pool of money there, so a guy like Drew Brees can demand $20 million. There's no boss. There's not a boss in the world that's going to pay you $1,000 if he can't make $1,500. We played football. We put a product on the field that made the fans come in and build it. And for Drew Brees to say something like that, it's horrible. The thing is, he says, I had bad investments. I made $15,000 a year. I had a wife and 3 kids. My take-home pay was $9,200. I don't know how I could have blown on bad investments, but that's what he said. And that's why, so when you do something, you got to always put yourself in the place of the person you're talking to, the person you're trying to influence, and say, is this guy going to be turned off because I have tattoos? Is this person going to be turned off because I have a ring in my ear or nose? If you want to impress them, and you know that they don't want that tattoo or don't want that ring, don't wear it. And don't try to cover up the tattoo. I'm not saying you can't beat tattoo, but don't go out there like a badge of courage saying, look here, I got the national anthem on my chest. A lot of people don't want to see that, even though it's the national anthem. Okay? Remember, your first impression especially is you only get one chance to be a first impression, the most important impression you make. Make an impression and try to do things to accommodate other people. Jerry, I know Jerry, I just bust his chops because we're good friends. But it's very possible that Drew Brees jersey back there could turn me off, and I would have been this whole thing had been for naught. Remember what you're doing. Consider others at all times. Okay?
I don't know what Drew Brees jersey you're talking about. I just see a number 61 behind me.
It's gone, man. It's gone. Very sharp.
Schools, if you could unmute your microphone.
Yeah. That's one thing else. Do not be afraid to adapt. See how he adapted to this situation? You got to adapt. You got to change. Okay? Don't stay rigid. Adapt.
If schools, if you want to join me and unmute your microphones for a second and join me, give a warm round of applause to Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Dave Robertson.
Thank you.
And Mr. Robertson, I usually say on behalf of our Board of Trustees, but since you are our Board of Trustees, don't fire me for having the Drew Brees in the background. So, thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. We appreciate your time. Students, thank you very much. Faircrest, the broadcast started going very smooth the last 40 minutes. It started coming through really well. So thank you for all the arrangements you made on your end as well. Mr. Stepanovich, thank you very much. Extreme Networks, teachers, students, the schools, Faircrest, Southmont, Eagleville, Westfield. Thank you for tuning in, and this concludes our program. Take care.
Yeah, one thing. I want to say thank you to this group class here and all the other schools.